What's going on, Grace family, and welcome back to our midweek check-in for this week. So I hope your week is going well. I hope it's off to a great start. I hope you're enjoying and learning more about living the resurrection life. I want to do something a little bit different. Rather than a heavy review and preview, I would actually like to dive in a little bit and bring you into some of my quiet times and what God has been teaching me, and really one verse that stood out recently. And so recently I've been reading through the Old Testament in chronological order. And so I got to 1 Samuel, and I was reading, this was probably a couple weeks ago by now, but I was reading in 1 Samuel chapter 8, just where Saul becomes the king of Israel. And I want to read 1 Samuel chapter 8. I'm going to read verses 4. Let's go through verse 9, and then we'll really hone in on one verse, and maybe you can learn a little bit as God's been teaching me. So this is 1 Samuel verse 8, starting in verse 4. It says, "Finally all the elders of Israel met at Ramah to discuss the matters with Samuel. 'Look,' they told him, 'you are now old, and your sons are not like you. Give us a king to judge us like all the other nations have.' Samuel was displeased with their request and went to the Lord for guidance. 'Do everything they say to you,' the Lord replied, 'for it is me they are rejecting, not you.'" And then he says, this is God speaking, "They don't want me to be their king any longer. Ever since I brought them from Egypt, they have continually abandoned me and followed other gods, and now they are giving you the same treatment. Do as they ask, but solemnly warn them about the way a king will rule over them." So that verse, it's verse 7, the end of verse 7, where God says they don't want me to be their king any longer, just really caught my attention. And in my own prayer time, my own quiet time, I'm just going, God, is that true of me? If you were to look at my life and the way I lived, God, would you say that about me? Would you say, Matt doesn't want me to be his king any longer? And so I thought I'd just share that with you and challenge you a little bit this week. We have so many distractions in our world. We have so many great things in a country like ours where it's very prosperous. Those great things can become big distractions, and those distractions can become idols. And then in our minds and hearts and lives, we're living as if we don't want God to be our king anymore. And so I just kind of thought about different areas of my life. Is God king of my mind and my heart? Is God king of my time? And so maybe you could use that to evaluate your own self this week. Is God really king over your mind? You know, the Bible tells us to take every thought captive for Christ. Are we allowing our mind to wander for things in this world, or to hope in things that we don't have that are just temporary, or maybe we're longing for that comfort or that right relationship? I'm not sure where your mind wanders to, but is it submitting to the rule of our King who is good and perfect? You know, is God king of my heart? That overflow, the very center of who I am, everything that flows from who I am comes from the heart. And if God is king there, then everything that flows from and into my life will come from him ruling and reigning as king. So that same challenge is for you. We're to love the Lord our God with all our heart, all our soul, all our mind, all of our strength. Is God king of your heart? Or are there other things that you really desire more than him? Is there something that's pulling your attention away from him and to something else this week? Another way to evaluate that is our time. You know, from what we spend our time doing, it tells a lot about what's more important in our life, because we make that a priority. We make time for it. So am I allowing time in my life that declares, yes, Jesus is truly my king? So anyway, take that. Maybe you can take that into your prayer closet. Maybe you can ask God, just evaluate my heart, God, and reveal things to me, because I would hate to be a person where God describes me and says he doesn't want me to be his king any longer. So let's focus on him as king, the joy, the peace that comes in that, and hopefully you can learn a few things from that as well. So we're going to be moving on in the I Am series. Let me get my notes open again. So we'll be in this next week, we'll be in John chapter 14 and looking at Jesus saying, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And we'll be applying that to our own lives. So we'll look forward to seeing you back at church at 9 a.m. Have a great rest of your week. I'll be praying for you, and we'll see you all soon.